There. Let's see if I brought us all back from our brief intermission correctly.
Hey.
Hey.
Whoa, there's a new guy.
Hey, who's this guy? He should introduce himself. I'm sure he has people who would like to meet him.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andoran. I've had a lot of fun putting together, well, it's 3 now, music projects having to do with EverQuest.
Awesome. Do you want to talk about some of the work you've done thus far?
The first project I did, I'd been sort of hearing rumors for a long time that, that EverQuest was going to make a 3rd installment. And then my daughter, I think it was in July, told me it's really going to happen. They're going to do this, big unveiling in Vegas. And so I started looking into it and checking it out, and caught the, the big unveiling and whatnot. And it just got me, kind of worked up as far as like old memories and a lot
That's
of good
awesome.
times that I used to have. And so I got the idea to go ahead and compose a piece that was sort of a combination of what Jeremy Soule had done and some of the old EverQuest melody, and one thing led to another, and finished the video up and went ahead and posted that.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's cool. So you have a gaming family then. You raised your daughter in the land of NORAD?
Yeah, when she got to be right around teenage, like 13, 14, she's like, they'd watched me play and whatnot. And so, yeah, I let her create a character. It was kind of funny because when she was just learning it, that was back in the old days where you could get yourself dead and really hard to get to places.
Oh, gosh.
And I'd come home from work, some days, and she'd be like, "Dad, I'm like dead in the bottom of the fall and you have to save me."
Oh, Tamlin was telling me that earlier, a couple days ago. Weren't you talking about Befallen a little bit? Maybe, or I might have been talking to somebody else. I'm sorry, but yeah,
No.
Followed through the middle of Befallen. That was a lot of fun in EverQuest.
What's funny is that I was reading on Reddit just today that there was someone who, there was parents that played their children's like RuneScape accounts when their children are at work, and it's like, oh, I don't know how you got all these extra coins, but it's one of those things that they enjoy playing, but they don't want their kid to know necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I saw my father in channel watching the stream earlier today. He plays MMOs just as much as I do.
My fiance
Which
is not a
is saying
gamer.
a lot.
It is saying a lot. I have plans to assimilate my child as soon as possible to the world of video games. I start off with Jumpstart games, throw a little Oregon Trail in there, and then straight to EverQuest.
Oregon.
Probably.
It's not Oregon. It's Oregon.
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 I don't know. I say Oregon, you say Oregon.
Yeah, I'm the only
This
gamer
is-
in my family too.
Is it a South thing to say Oregon? How do you
Yes.
say Oregon?
Oregon.
Scott.
Oregon.
Oregon.
Thank
Oregon.
you.
Oregon.
Oregon.
Or people are saying Oregon, Gorgon. Can I say Gorgons?
Gorgon works.
Okay, Chad, now say nuclear.
Nuclear? I don't say nuclear, alright? It's not from Texas. Them nuclear. Anyways, going back to your work, I absolutely loved it. I love the fact that on your videos you actually use quotes from the book. To kind of tell the story. That's really, really cool.
That's part of what when I read through the story. I mean, I liked the whole book, but especially the first part of it sort of got me going. And I'd never really tried to score a story before, but it just kind of worked out pretty well as far as what I was feeling and getting out of the book. But it would be different. It would be a lot different experience if you weren't seeing what was happening in the story. So part of the challenge was to take the story and sort of edit it down a little bit, boil it down a little bit, and then let it sort of tell a little bit of story along with the music.
It's got to be hard composing, emotions. Like that's what it comes down to, is trying to capture emotions with music. How long have you been composing?
I started noodling around on instruments when I was like 6, and started out, in band doing clarinet, and started out actually on the flutophone. Very awesome instrument.
Oh, very cool. How many? Now, I'm not looking at the video again. How many different, not instruments, but how many different synths, I guess, did you use in that creation?
The way that I put these pieces together is with an orchestral sound library, and so it's actually pretty extensive. And then the way I play the instruments is through the keyboard, and then record it in multiple tracks, one pass at a time, and sort of assemble it that way.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Very cool. Well, we're glad you're making this stuff. I think we have linked it on Twitter now and in chat.
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions for Andrew, also known as Edward Brian,
feel free to
post them in chat.
Actually, I have a question. If you had to pick a favorite instrument, what would it be?
Well, it would depend. For composing, it's absolutely piano. But
just
for
music for the sake of music, for no other purpose, but for personal soul satisfaction. What is that one personal instrument for you?
Oh, I love saxophone. Absolutely. I haven't thought of a way yet to compose a piece for, a fantasy setting like EverQuest and put saxophone in it, but I'm still working on it.
You could set it up to be sort of in the shanty town, where kind of blues and jazz comes from.
Do sort of a cantina type scene.
Oh, yeah, maybe, or not even cantina. But if you go with the latest lore, with the ogres being kind of slaves, they'd have to sort of come up with the music of their own somehow. I don't know if I see ogres playing saxophones.
Ogres with saxophones. There you go.
Well,
it's possible.
This EverQuest Next has been kind of about reinventing what we know.
That's true.
And they've really pointed out that they're not necessarily trying to move away from the medieval, typical high fantasy type. But, we don't associate saxophones with that. And if they're moving away from that, there's no reason not to try to bring it in now.
Okay, if Klingons can have opera, I'm sure ogres can have some high form of musical expertise.
Yeah.
That's actually an interesting idea. We could have, what instrument does the ogre play? Little ditty, like,
the skulls
what does the fox
of
say?
its enemies.
What does the fox say?
Yeah.
The fox says that her favorite, soul-soothing instrument, cello, hands down, and I regret never learning to play it, but they were always really expensive, so it was one of the few instruments that I wanted to learn that I never learned.
Saxophone's beautiful.
I actually have a question.
I do play that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, some of the stuff I've seen on different forums is about bards being able to compose their own stuff. I'm wondering what you think about that. Actually having bands essentially within the game.
I've seen actually in Lord of the Rings Online.
Yeah,
you can do that, and I've seen some actually absolutely very, entertaining, cool things. Several people will get together and just, take off, start playing things.
Yeah,
I've seen like Led Zeppelin tributes. I've seen all kinds of things doing that. It was really awesome.
Is it right for EverQuest Next proper? What are you going to say, Kai?
I was going to say that somebody asked, what would play a sax? And for some strange reason, I hear a saxophone and I see little Ratonga playing saxophones. There's something about the Ratonga that says that's, I don't know why, but it just seems fitting.
It's jazz and it's wine and it's cheese, I guess, or something.
Yeah, right. Actually, I'm starting to dig this ogre kind of saxophone vibe the more I think about it.
I love what Aniraba just said. This is like Peter and the Wolf. Each race has an instrument. I think. Oh my God! Somebody said Karen. Yeah, I could see the lions.
Now Karens are so tribal. That's the only thing. I don't know. Maybe they should have the bongos and stuff like that. Because that's typically how Karens are portrayed in all of the EverQuest lore thus far. Like, we haven't seen
reinvention of the lore.
You're right, we haven't seen the lore for EverQuest Next, but yeah, it's true.
I was gonna say I do have another project in the works. I'm just starting, but it was gonna be. I've already started. This will have some live vocal. In the second project that I did, I had some good friends of mine, a couple of very talented ladies, do the vocal work on it, using their voices as instruments. On this one, I'm gonna go ahead and do some lyrics and have her sing it, and it'll be based around events that happened in the fall of Bastion.
Oh, nice, awesome. I'm excited for that. When can we expect that to drop?
I'm sorry, my phone was just ringing. Hang on.
Oh, it's okay. Thought that was the avoiding tactic right
Well,
there. I don't want to answer
No,
that.
no,
The phone's
um,
ringing.
I've gotten started on it. My timetable usually is around 2 to 3 weeks. I was around 5 or 6 weeks on this one, but that was because I had some technical difficulties. I had the system drive in my studio computer decided to crash, and it took about 10 days to get it all sorted out. So,
Oh, wow.
but this particular piece should probably be ready. I'd say 3 weeks at the outside, 2 to 3 weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll look forward to it. It would be great
Thanks,
if I'm thinking EverQuestNext.com. You know, when you click on that ebook, what if it took you to a little site where they had your commentaries next to it, linked to it? I mean, that would be really cool.
That would be
you're composing.
that would be awesome. Actually,
You're composing professional stuff, and it fits in with the theme of the book. It only seems natural for them to sort of.
I can't remember who it was. Someone in chat talked about Trendane doing the voiceover, and I could do some composition and have him do some reading. That would be really cool too.
I tweeted out because I've been admiring your microphone this whole time, that if I had that doing this podcast makes me want to get better equipment, like a better microphone, a better sound system, that sort of thing. And then the more I think about having all this extra stuff to make this show better, the more I want to do a radio play, and stuff I dream about and play around with in my head.
That'd be awesome.
I admit that the thing that I dream about is doing the podcast in costume every episode.
Wow. Please don't do that to me. Do you know how long it took to do this?
No!
Awful.
Just me. Just
Okay,
me.
then yeah, you go ahead. Hell yeah, do it.
I don't know. I like to dress up. It's a thing.
Oh, and then
I
pulled the
almost-
Tamlin again.
So what I almost did was that, like, the hat that
Wow.
I made for Tamlin with the beard, right? I wanted to do mine, and instead of the black beard, I wanted to do mine in like a copper and red, and I wanted to be Copper, the cousin of Brass. But I didn't have time, and I didn't have Brass's permission to do that to something that she's created, so I kind of didn't. So instead, I'm
That's cool,
Copper
though.
Fox.
That's awesome.
Tanlin, did you see the comment by Arvasia?
Yeah, that I mute myself. Well, I
You
mean,
could have
everybody
really
knows-
high tech.
Everybody
You can't
knows
use that
that I'm running grounds control here, or what is it, mission control. I've got screens over here, and Shinter has been helping by banning or deleting the messages, and I've been trying to time out the people that are spamming the chat, and so I can multitask only to so many different levels, and I feel like I've been distracted this whole show because I've been doing this and this and this.
No, it's just a Tamlin thing. He lies.
It's pulling a thing.
One day he'll get it.
Eventually, I just gave up. I
keep
just
saying,
left my.
push to talk would be easier because you're automatically gonna have to push that button. Then you never have to mute yourself.
True.
We'll make him do it for next show. We will. I will make him do it.
That's it. I just
Just to
leave
see if there's
everything
difference.
unmuted.
It'll be a social experiment.
And you'll hear, all the stuff that I don't want you guys to hear.
You mean when we talk about them?
We say all these great things about them. What are you talking about?
We do. That's what I mean. We just don't want them to get too flattered. We're not trying to suck up or anything. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, so I'm going to suck up for a second. If there's anybody in chat that's reading and watching and listening, can somebody let Dexella know to send me a message with a location that she is comfortable with me sending her red and black dragon that she requested, that she probably didn't expect.
Kai's gonna get us those beta invites. Woot woot.
No,
I know.
That's I don't ever want somebody thinking that that's the intention. It's no.
I'd give you a beta invite. My game I've been working on at Garage. I hired a couple developers now. We're cranking it out. A couple Dorito Locos tacos a day is costing me, but you guys, you'll get a beta invite. I'm just letting you know. We can go back to the round table.
Yeah, we had 2 questions that we hadn't got around to for the round table. I think they're pretty controversial too. I know that Kai Lest has a strong opinion on the one. Do you want me to ask it? There are many ways that death can work in MMOs. What is your preference for EverQuest Next? Kai, honey, what's your feelings?
Did you really just call me honey on like chat, like live broadcast?
I'm sorry, are you embarrassed?
Schnookums.
Are you embarrassed?
Schnookums.
I only say that because I had to deal with you yelling at your computer because you suffered a death penalty.
He is right. I am extremely opinionated on this. So Diggs, we're actually married, not dating. Poor thing. He's been putting up with me for 2 years now. I don't mind corpse runs. I don't mind dying in game. I really strongly hate the XP penalty. It's the biggest way to get me to not play the game. And end of story. I hate it. Make me pay to repair my gear. Whatever, but don't, the XP penalties just like seriously fastest effing way to piss me the F off with a video game. I quit playing one game for several months because of it.
Should either of the other hosts have a?
And it's the game that this character is from, no less.
What if they gave you options? Like, what if the hardcore people could choose to run to their corpse, and you lose an item or something random instead of losing experience?
Losing an item?
Yeah, I mean, I've changed. When I played EverQuest, I had time.
That'd be like RuneScape.
Corpse run. They were somewhat fun, I guess, sometimes. But now with family, kids, work, I'm kind of like, I don't have time for all that. Why not give me a different option so that you still fear death, basically?
Someone on Twitter brought up the best answer to this. I wish I could remember who it was, but they explained a system where the different mobs and the ways they killed you would change the death penalty. To where, say, you were getting attacked by a dragon, well, the death penalty may be more
I read that. I remember
like
seeing that. That was
maybe the way you interact changes.
That was on 10 Ton Hammer, I believe. The Wise Druid.
Oh, really? Okay,
brought that up.
perfect.
Yeah,
Nice.
and that was a fascinating
great idea.
That the mob would fight you one way if you were, sort of like casual, not real up on tactics, whatever, and fight you a different way if you were hardcore, or you could die different ways. Like if it was a wolf, they might injure you to where you were slow for a little while. If it was more along the lines of, I guess, what you'd call an elite mob, then you might get your group wiped if you weren't careful. Things like that.
Yeah, it would be fascinating, actually. I don't know how much work would have to go into a system where mobs had different death penalties and such, but I think it's worth exploring. Because the idea is that it constantly challenges, it makes you fear death, actually. You don't have to have like an overtly strict death penalty, but at the same time you can challenge the players.
And it'd be a way at least somewhat to, they say you can't, make everybody happy all at once, but that would kind of be a start.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't want to lose experience. corpse runs can be tedious, but I guess the question is, how do you still make it risky? How do you still not try to not just run headfirst into something without planning, like so many other games?
See, I don't really care about the PvE thing, because to me it's, I don't know, that's not where and Dave Mark is not in channel anymore, so I can say things like, well, PvE, when I'm playing up against the NPCs, it's like, yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be challenging to me, so I don't expect to die that often. Where I do see myself dying a whole lot is PvP, and so all I know is that when you are on a free-for-all PvP server or even a faction-based open warfare, world PvP, you have to worry about corpse camping people. Like, what type of penalties are you going to see in that sort of environment? And so that's where, like, PvE, I don't care. It'll take care of itself. I'll play that game, and I'm not necessarily concerned about it. But in PvP, I just want to make sure that they're not putting you in a position where you can become an easy victim of griefing. Like, that's all.
I like what Shrouded Hope just put in the chat. Says the Mega Man games back in the day were considered not because of penalties, but because you died. The fact that you had to redo it, and that it was challenging to the point where death itself was enough of a reason not to die. I think the combat situation you were talking about, that Tanlin and PvE. I mean, if they can create a level that's similar to PvP, where it's really challenging, fun, and you can fear death, then maybe there isn't a penalty. Maybe you don't need a death penalty. Maybe death's enough. I know, like, there's a lot of situations in games, like the shooters especially, or Doom, where I fear death. I see that mob come around, and that music hits me, and everything just... You can base it off immersion.
Well, even after, I did the Iron Man challenge, right? Where if I die, I was going to delete the character and start over again. And so, from my point of view, is that I adjust how I play the game so that I don't die. And so that's like, the death penalty is meaningless to me, because to think about the death penalty is like, well, how about I just not die and play the game so that I'm not putting myself in that position? Because if I do die, I'm just going to, whatever. I get more upset with myself for the fact that I did die, that no penalty of dying is going to be as worse as the pressure I put on myself.
Yeah. Looks like I've been crying. I keep smearing this makeup all over.
Now you understand the pain of women.
Y'all have it tough. I'm going to agree with that. I will respect the woman's makeup from now on.
That's why I don't wear it very often.
I will say, old school EQ, boy, they really put the fear in you as far as, dying in certain situations. I can remember, a quick true story, I can remember doing a pickup hate raid once that wiped, and then the power went out in my house till the next morning, and so my character was stuck in hate for like a week before I could get back up and get him out.
Wow. Yeah, but see, nowadays you'd probably just go play another game if that happened. Would you?
I don't know. There's I tend towards the hardcore side. There's a lot of situations where, like, for instance, going on a fear raid, I mean, it actually put the fear in you. You were really watching what you were doing, because you didn't want that sort of situation to happen. But there were also times where wipes were just a mess, and it took hours to straighten out, and that's way too much pain, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, there needs to be. Death is a weird thing.
It is, and it's just a personal opinion for me. It's just what I don't like. I don't mind the corpse run. I don't mind having to go to a vendor and repair my gear and paying the gold and spending the time on that. What I don't like is I died, so I lost experience because I died. So the fact that I failed at this one particular encounter takes away the experiences of the past. It doesn't really make any logical sense to me.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean it doesn't, but it doesn't for me.
it doesn't seem to me like they're going to be able to do that sort of thing in EverQuest Next because they're talking about, you know, nonlinear progression, parallel progression.
Yeah.
So, taking experience wouldn't necessarily be that big a deal, it seems like to me.
That's true, but I also see the reasoning behind the loss of XP. Because to use the Mega Man reference again, or any sort of side-scrolling game, when you die, you technically do lose experience. Now, I'll admit it's not, character progression, but you lost all the time and the difficulty you spent trying to get through that level. You just start from the beginning. Is that not losing experience in a way? I don't know. I think it's dated. I'm not going to say that I want it in EverQuest Next at all, but I do see a little bit of reasoning behind it.
The comment that I think it's Shanador made is a good point, and I've seen people talk about that before too. As far as if you make the whole death penalty, maybe recovering your corpse type of thing, a little more difficult, it can help with community if you have to enlist the aid of others in certain situations. That article that I read did say that for simple encounters you wouldn't need anything like that, but if it was more of an epic encounter and you knew it going in, it would be obvious that you could sort of plan that to where if things went wrong, you could enlist aid to mop up basically.
That is cool.
So if someone says, I don't mind losing progress in MMOs, I'm not playing to reach the end, I'm playing to enjoy the game. And I completely agree with that. And for me, the loss of experience is a loss of enjoyment for me. And if that's great for other people, then that's fantastic. I don't want people dictating the way that they play the game based on my personal opinion, because like I said, it's my personal opinion. That's why I left the game Vanguard for a while, is because I didn't enjoy that aspect of the game, and it genuinely ruined the fun of the game for me. So I took an extended break, even though it was something that my husband was playing and he really enjoyed playing it. For me, I don't enjoy that. It's a game killer, but that's just for me. If other people enjoy it, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Pinnapot brought up a great kind of counter to forcing people to group together, and that's the point where servers that aren't as populated, or maybe servers that have a different culture where people don't want to help each other no matter what you force, then the players that are forced into those conditions just suffer because of bad game design in a way. So I'm all for fostering collaboration. Like, that's the biggest thing. I think that's the number one reason why MMOs are special, is because they can bring people together, and it's the interaction amongst the people to accomplish a goal that makes it fun, not the goal itself. But how do you force somebody to collaborate? I don't know.
How do you do corpse runs in an environment that's destructible and regenerates?
That's
right,
true.
Right. What happens if that that place that you found, that you crawled down into that cavern and you die, and then the world heals, is there going to be a corpse run? Is that going to even be feasible?
The biggest penalty I like for death, and one that I'd like to see in MMOs, is more just based on travel time. Make it to where I can instantly teleport somewhere. Make it to where I travel somewhere for 2 hours, and I know the dangers in the area. I know that I need to find shelter. I know that I need to do this to get there safely. And then if I choose not to, or if I choose not to sneak in that area and I die, it's going to be a hell of a long journey to get back there. I think that's the number one death penalty. It encourages people to group together when they're traveling across cities or across zones, but doesn't force them. And at the same time, it's not a penalty per se, because they could just go do something else if they wanted to. They didn't want to get back there.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I'm arguing for no penalty at all, I guess.
I just remember, leveling in my Vanguard days, and I was duoing as a blood mage. My partner was a rogue, and anytime the situation got a little hairy, what did he do? He would do his rogue trick and vanish and disappear and run away and let me die. I'm like,
oh man!
See, that's if I'm gonna, if there's gonna be a death penalty, just let's all have that death penalty. Let's make it not so that people have like the avoid death, get away free button.
So the general consensus, it looks like, in the chat room right now is that alternate rule set servers would probably allow Sony to cater to the obvious, because I never played the original EverQuest game, but I understand that the death penalty was really, really rough in that game. And if that's what people are used to, then don't change the game for Care Bears like me that aren't used to that. But to accommodate a few groups of people in like having a couple of different rule set servers, I think that's a really good idea. I think it would work and serve the purpose of making a couple of groups of people happy, maybe not satisfying everyone's needs, but you're a game company and you really honestly can't, or it would potentially ruin your game.
Yeah, I agree. The more I think about alternate rules servers, the more it seems complicated for EverQuest Next.
Yeah,
not only because of, look at all like the server merges that are happening across like all games. You know, you open up all the servers, population disperses, and you don't see a lot of MMOs that are really like, this is a PvP server, this is a PvE server nowadays. And when it happens, you end up, if you do go on that PvP server, it ends up you're the minority, and then your experience totally sucks sometimes because no one else wants to PvP or vice versa. So, and marketing too, that was the other idea that crossed my mind. Like, if you're separating your players into different games, you're having to market different games, and why not just create something that's good for everybody?
Yeah,
but I love alternate rule sets, though. I love the idea that I could go onto a lore server or a
I'm
roleplay
okay
server
with alternate rule set servers as long as there aren't a billion of them, and I'm exaggerating.
True.
I think that the more that you add, the less benefit you receive for having them. Like, if you want to have 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 different rule set servers, that's fine. But once you go beyond that, they sort of just kind of, what is this server? I don't understand what this rule set means. And even the first MMO I played, it had permanent death, and it was text based. It was Dragon's Realms, but even they, wanted. There was enough drive in their players that said, "Hey, we want to be able to play this game in this way," and so they created a different server for them. But in the end, there was only three different servers: a hardcore roleplay server, a free for all, no GM involvement. You could get griefed and corpse camped and everything on this server, and then one in the middle.
I think as long as they can come up with a way somehow to, it doesn't have to be a lot of the emotion, but just to instill a little bit of the emotion of danger, then that adds a lot, to that experience. So in other words, if that's just basically a minor inconvenience, you're not ever really going to experience that. And for me, adventure and discovery, that's a big part of it. Is all right, so I'm going to stick my head in this cave, is there going to be a big bad ogre in it, and am I going to die? And I don't know, that sort of thing. So it doesn't need to be brutal, as far as the penalties go. But if you could come up with a way, like I say, to just create that danger factor.
Make it scary. Yeah, it's not like you don't need a mechanic for this, I don't think. Fearing death isn't a mechanic. Fearing death is the way they tell the story, and it's the situation, how they build it up, how they're delivering the content to the player. If it's believable, that's what makes you fear death. Right.
That's actually true. If you can create the atmosphere, that would go a long way.
Exactly.
Well, and to go into our next roundtable question, because I think that these two are very closely linked, because both questions are asking the same sort of thing. How much there's having fun in the game, which is exploring and adventuring, and then there is the stuff that MMOs put in to make them seem more realistic. They're part of the realism, things like death and travel, where you might spend a lot of time doing something that's very mundane and not interesting. So the next question on the roundtable is fast travel in EverQuest Next. Love it or leave it? Anyone? Let me start. I tweeted out earlier today that when you're looking at that whole risk versus reward analysis and evaluation, I'm perfectly fine with having quick travel, because sometimes you just want to log in and you want to grab your friends and you want to be able to do something, and you don't want to, go from the safe place where you guys all logged out to where the adventure and discovery is at. But it's going to take an hour to get there. You just want to be able to go and do that. But at the same time, maybe if they do take that time and spend that hour worth of discovery, the reward should be higher. And that's where my feeling is like, have something that players can log in and plug into right away, but at the same time leave something out there for the grand adventurers and explorers that take long times to travel to.
So my opinion is that, and I'm going to draw the comparison to World of Warcraft because it's the game that I currently play a lot of. There are portals, and you can click on them, and you can what does the fox say? You can instantly travel to the location that you click on with the portal. And it's great to use when I'm in a rush and I need to get things done. And maybe I'm a weird gamer, but if I'm not in a rush, I like to mount and fly out or ride my horse out because it's fun. I may know the area really well, but I still enjoy doing it. So I don't think I don't think it's a clear-cut question of should we have fast travel or not. It's if you don't like it, don't use it. You don't have to use it just because it's there. I mean, it seemed to me that seems like a really simple solution. Offer it, but give other options. Just because it's there, it doesn't mean you have to take it. It's like the red pill, blue pill. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna throw the gauntlet down though, because I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna say that
go for it.
Fearing death or creating the game itself, having the sense of adventure. How do I put this? Build the game
bluntly.
Yeah, right? Okay. The problem with fast travel is a problem with game design, MMO design. I shouldn't have to go to another continent. I shouldn't have to go to Europe to play with my friends on something, is how I look at it. Look at it as the real world. I can have friends who live in my hometown, and yet we can find stuff to do 24/7. The need to have to travel across the world to experience something fun or something adventurous, it should be an option, but it shouldn't be required. Like the way they're doing starting cities, they drop you into a rallying call, right? So it's based on locality. It's based on interacting with people around you. And when you guys travel somewhere, you guys shouldn't necessarily have to just bounce back to finish a quest across the continent. You guys should be able to get enraptured in that locality and into that story that's in the area. And you guys could just get lost for a long time. And if you die, then it changes. I see fast travel totally 100% okay in Landmark. But in Next, I want to see it more story-driven. I want to see it more like a true adventure where I fear life. And fast travel takes that away from me.
I have two thoughts. One, I think we still think of it in terms of instances trying to get to that raid instance or whatever, and I don't know that we'll have those. But then also, it's what I always say is, in this game, the journey actually should be fun. You could fall through the earth. You could, run into things that weren't there before. I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
Okay. What if when you log in and you see there's like a time window to where you can instantly teleport to a friend, or you guys could just meet up, like it parties you up and puts you somewhere. Then after that, it's up to you to travel somewhere. So the story's always changing. You're always in the world, and you're with your friends, because isn't that the reason you want to fast travel, is to get to friends to certain locations? And the problem is the fact that I'll be waiting at the dungeon waiting for Tamlin to get to me. That's why I want fast travel. It isn't because we're traveling together. We're not experiencing things together. You drop two people in together and just let them travel around after that. That seems to solve both problems, right? Can you guys think of any negatives? Seriously, I don't know. I think it's a good in-between.
Yeah, and particular situation, that's really the only situation I could think of where it would be a drag. If you had, 3 or 4 people in a group and you had to put them all on hold waiting for, a fifth, then it becomes just a pain. But for those situations, if you had just, like a skill that everyone gets where you could, summon a party member, I wouldn't have a problem with that for that situation.
Yeah, I mean, portals between cities, that's brought up in chat. That would be cool if you limit cities.
Yeah.
Except there's only going to be one city to start with, right?
I guess that's true. Yeah, I think so.
So I don't mind the... I don't know, how long do you think it's going to take for like, if there's not an in-game map, right? How long is it going to be for, like, the zones to be cartographed, mapped out so that you have all the different locations? And is that going to matter if the world is constantly evolving? And so, somebody might be like, well, I went over that hill and I found this awesome place to, go fight orcs or whatever. And that person back there really liked it when I went and fought the orcs over there. And then the next time you log in, they're like, hey, hey, Chwayna, you want to go? I found this awesome place to go beat up some orcs. And this person back here behind us really likes it when we do it. You want to go do it? And we go there and the orcs aren't there anymore because it's a constant state of evolving world, right? So even though we got there as fast as we absolutely could, the world changed and now what we knew is no longer accurate. So the game becomes their part of it is exploring always.
So a couple of people in chat have brought up what I would consider a valid point. When Live It Up 1216 says, why don't we tie it into crafting, where you can craft portals essentially, and then somebody else points out that they don't want to spend their time. The whole wizard druids make portals isn't a boring idea to me because I really don't want to make my game time to provide a service to other players. And I to a degree, I agree with Shrouded Hope, who says that they don't want to use their time to help other people. But isn't that kind of the whole MMO thing?
True.
I
maybe
mean,
not make it necessary.
Maybe not make it a requirement. It's not like make it to where it's craftable and tradable. You can put it on an auction house or put it on a market and not force one, like, I'm a mage and I'm capable of making portals, so I'm going to sit in town for like the next hour just helping other people travel, because that would really,
It would be cool.
irritate me a lot.
Yeah, but it would be cool at the same time if you wanted to do it. People sat in Plains of Power for how long giving out free sows and stuff in EverQuest 1, and then people tipped and stuff, and it was a social thing. People went there to get their buffs, and they talked to you, and you had a little sense of community. You're like, oh, I know that cleric's going to be there to give me my buff. Let's go talk to him. I'll give him a tip, kind of thing. It was a cool feature. I don't know.
It actually was. There were times where an enchanter or liked doing that. They'd go into the plane of knowledge and just say, all right, we're going to do mass buff such and such a place in 5 minutes, and people would flock. They would just show up.
Yeah.
One of my strongest memories from actually EverQuest playing was I played a druid, so just giving out ports, and this one guy, I don't remember, never met him before, gave me my first like high level clicky item just for giving a port, and that was kind of fun. So
yeah, I remember.
And that's true, and there are a lot of people that play druids for that very reason, because they like doing that.
And even if it wasn't like a teleport buff where like the druids would cast you and it would move you to that place, I know that in Vanguard, if you were friends with a bard or a ranger, you would be, a ranger was good because they would cast the buff on you and you would just travel faster. You would still have to run the distance, but that time that it took you was shortened. And then and a bard was even faster, but they had to be in the group with you. And so if there was a bard traveling to where you would want to go, you'd be like, hey, you want to group up? And it added to that social aspect of it. Yeah, bard speed. It was, and they toned it down a little bit. Back in the day, Vanguard bard speed was just incredible.
some people lumped flying mounts into this question.
Yeah.
Curious what you.
Uh-oh. Chad
No.
just had like a painful
I like flying.
thing
I love
happen.
flying. If you have boots that make you fly, they've already shown that. Flying
No,
is
they
cool.
didn't make you fly. They made you glide.
Oh, wow.
They
Gliding
made you
is cool.
fall with
Flying-
style.
But flying's fun too.
but
Well,
I remember in Vanguard, they added in a flying mount before they added the raid one. They ended Randolph the reindeer that you got during Christmas, and all of a sudden, all of the open air dungeons that you would have to crawl through, all of a sudden you just fly over and land in them. So players will game the system, and I think that flying mounts add an extra dimension.
they kind of already said that the heroic movement system for Fae was going to be the Fae get to fly.
But is it going to be like a
There's gonna be a hover.
Sure.
hover,
That's what I
or
was
is it
thinking
going
because
to be
they
like-
hover in EverQuest 2 as well.
Mm,
See, I like
they-
flying.
I don't know.
What are your arguments? The only thing I could think of is that it's easy. You fly up in the air, you avoid the mobs and stuff. But in EverQuest Next, what if it isn't easy? What if there's flying mobs? What if the skies aren't safe either? And that by going up in the air, you choose to take a risk. Then not only do you get to fly up to a floating island, but you also get to have a gameplay experience on the way. It's not just easy mode.
I'm horrible
Is that
at the
biggest
XYZ.
argument against it?
No, I'm horrible at the XYZ
Yeah, no.
access. I have a hard enough time moving around in a two-dimensional space. You got a
see.
third dimension, and that's not just flying. That is, I have a difficult time playing MMOs when I go underwater and I have to start swimming, and in flying in combat and swimming in combat, like if I can avoid it, I will. That isn't to say that I don't use the amount that it's given to me that I can fly to the location. But I mean, I've been playing Vanguard since beta. I still don't have a flying mount because there's no reason to it.
Yes, you do.
I have a flying mount.
Just calling them out.
I don't have a flying mount.
Like hell, you don't.
Do you give me one?
No, it was a gift from Sony for going to SOE Live. You just
I
never
haven't
used it.
collected it. I forgot about it. All right. So I've had one for a couple of months. I forgot I had it. My bad. My wife
He
called me.
hasn't
out.
used it, so it's okay.
No, but see, and then even in Vanguard in that game, it was like when they first added flying mounts into the game, it was a massive effort, just like everything in Vanguard. It required groups, it required raids, it required time, and then you finally got your flying mount, and that was like a status symbol. And then, Dave Jorgensen has spoke before, but that was one of the reasons we like playing MMOs, is being able to, like, this is what I've accomplished type feeling, that heroic feeling. And then, several years down the road, they opened the cash shop, and a level 1 character could spend $5 and get a flying mount. And so that feeling of accomplishment was reduced to $5. And so I put them in, put them out. I don't care about flying mounts, but if there is a sense of accomplishment, don't demean it. And that goes for almost everything in the game.
I'm okay with buying appearance armor. I don't like that I can go into most of the stores and purchase like actual armor. And I know that it's not as good as the armor that you'd get in a raid, but he's right. I can go into the Sony Station Cash store in Vanguard and it's like, $10 or $15 for a flying mount and, like $5 or $10 for a ground mount. And I can have it the moment I walk into that game.
Yeah.
And the last question.
That was the last question.
Oh wait, that was the last question, wasn't it?
I tied the two of them together.
Our time limit for once.
No, I think that those questions are both basically focused at the same thing. And Guild Wars 2 took the approach when they created their game where there's no death penalty and there's instant travel anywhere in the game. And they're like, well, these are the things that are in the game that are fun, and these are the things that in traditional MMOs have been put in, but they're not necessarily fun. So they just took them out. And I see these two questions as very much tied together. How much do you want to be doing things that aren't necessarily the fun things?
There's a great article. I'm gonna link it on Twitter, my Twitter later. But it basically said that developers are killing what MMOs are supposed to be, and I agree. Mechanics limit player interaction. They limit what happens in virtual worlds. They make it a game. They don't make it a world. Death penalties, all sorts of things. forcing people to do certain things. That's not what's fun about MMOs. What's fun is just being able to get together and do whatever the hell you want, pretty much. So why force like quests and stuff like that across worlds or travel and stuff like that? Why not just let people develop it themselves, I guess, in a way? Like, I don't know. I'm all for a really simple game based on locality.
One last thing for me really quick. I love what Arvesu. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. I would love that mounts grew up with you. Like having a pet, have to take care of it and grow it into a mount and then grow it into a fighting companion. Maybe not for me, maybe not the fighting companion part of it, but I really like the idea of like really putting a lot of time and effort into having a mount. And if that means having to search the world for the perfect like horse, like this foal, and then having to nurture this foal over the course of weeks or months, and then having to train it to be able to ride it. I mean, I really kind of like that idea.
You've increased in horse riding skill 1. Yeah. All right. You know what time it is, right?
Are we calling it tonight?
It is that time.
I'm exhausted. Sorry, I'm already sleeping.
All right, final words from our 2 guests.
Yeah.
Just thanks for having me here. This has been a lot of fun, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. It was a lot of fun.
And, all right.
And Doran, keep writing that beautiful music.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you for having me on. It was fun. I love watching the show and I love watching the chat. I usually wound up, with a belly laugh or two out of the deal. So.
Yeah, you guys are welcome to come back.
I want to say one thing to Amid and Domino. Join us for Extra Life if you can. That's it.
All right.
Yeah, everyone join for Extra Life. EverCast shows putting your support right behind you, QNexus here. Tamlin's going to be streaming, and we're going to see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm streaming with him, by the way.
Oh, see,
maybe we'll do some PvP that we've been talking about.
Oh gosh, that'd be awesome. I'm going to pay to see that. Totally, I'm donating.
Who wants to camp us down to the camp?
I think we should let our guest camp us out.
Yes!
Is that
all me?
Guys, camp
All right, you guys
us
got to do it
out.
at the same time, okay? Start camping in 5. All right, I'm going to count you down. 3, 2, 1, go.
Camping
Camping
in
in
5,
4,
4,
You're almost there.
3,
3,
2,
2,